My wife sobbed. He's Oliver's real father. I walked away broken. 5 years later, she knocked and whispered, the test was fake. Oliver has always been yours. I thought I had the perfect life, successful banking career, loving wife, and a son who was my world. Then I found the hidden DNA test results. 9 years of fatherhood, destroyed by 3 words. Paternity, 0%. But the real shock came 5 years later. My name is Neil Maddox. I'm 43 years old, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. 15 years managing the downtown branch of First National Bank, a beautiful wife and a son who meant everything to me. I was the guy who had his life together. The one other man looked at and thought, that's what success looks like. Our house in Maple Grove was the kind of place you see in magazines. 2-story colonial with white picket fence, manicured lawn that I spent every Saturday perfecting. Belle had insisted on the expense of landscaping, said it reflected well on both our careers. She was right. Of course, in our circle, appearances mattered. Oliver was 9 years old and the light of my world. Every evening when I came home from the bank, he'd run to me with that gap-toed grin, showing me his latest drawing or telling me about his day at school. We had our routines: Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday afternoon catch in a backyard, bedtime stories where I'd make up adventures about brave knights and dragons. The morning everything changed, started like any other. I was in the kitchen reading the financial section while sipping coffee from my favorite mug, the one Oliver had painted for me at summer camp with "World's Best Dad" in crooked letters. Belle was at the stove, humming some tune I didn't recognize, her auburn hair catching the morning light streaming through her bay window. "Honey, did you move any papers from my desk?" she asked, her voice carrying a note I couldn't quite place. I looked up for the newspaper. No. Why? She was rifling through a stack of mail on the counter, her movements quick and agitated. I can't find something important. That's when I saw it, a white envelope that had fallen behind the coffee maker, partially hidden. The return address made my stomach drop. Precision Genetics Laboratory. "Is this what you're looking for?" I held up the envelope. The color drained from Belle's face so fast I thought she might faint. Her hand trembled as she reached for it, but I pulled it back. "What's this about?" "Belle?" "It's nothing. Neil, just some routine test my doctor ordered." But the way she said it, the tremor in her voice told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't routine anything. I tore open the envelope before she could stop me. The words on the page hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. DNA paternity test results. Probability of paternity 0%. The silence in our kitchen stretched like a taut wire, ready to snap. Belle stood frozen by the stove, her spatula dripping eggs onto the floor, her eyes wide with the look of someone caught red-handed. The DNA test results trembled in my hands as I tried to process what I was reading. "Neil, please," Belle whispered, taking a tentative step toward me. "Let me explain. Explain." My voice came out rougher than I intended. "Explain how my son isn't my son. Explain how you've been lying to me for 9 years. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" "Belle, because this paper says there's 0 chance Oliver is mine. 0. I waved the document at her. "How long have you known?" "I suspected, but I wasn't sure until you decided to get a test behind my back." The rage was building inside me like steam in a pressure cooker. "Who is Heel? Who's the father?" Her face crumpled and tears started streaming down her cheeks. "It was Milton. Milton Raw from my old firm. Milton Raw, The name hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew him. Cocky advertising executive. Divorced. The kind of guy who wore expensive suits and drove a BMW. I'd met him at several company parties over the years when I demanded. It was when we were going through that rough patch. Remember, you were working those long hours trying to get the promotion and we barely talked. I was lonely. Neil, I made a terrible mistake. A mistake? I slammed the paper down on the counter. A mistake is forgetting to pay the electric bill. Belle, this is betrayal. This is letting me raise another man's child while you sat there knowing the truth. I didn't know for certain until recently. She sobbed, and by then, Oliver was your son in every way that mattered. You love him. Neil, nothing changes that. Everything changes that. I roared, causing her to stumble backward. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've built my entire life around that boy, around his family. I've sacrificed promotions to make it to his baseball games. I've stayed up all night when he was sick, and now you're telling me he's not even mine, upstairs. I could hear Oliver getting ready for school, blissfully unaware that his world was about to implode. The sound of his feet running across the floor made my chest tighten. He is yours, Belle said. Biology doesn't change the fact that you're his father in every way that counts. Don't... I held up my hand. Don't you dare try to minimize this. You let me believe a lie for 9 years. You watch me love that boy, knowing he wasn't mine because you do love him and he loves you. The sound of Oliver's bedroom door opening upstairs made us both freeze. His voice drifted down cheerfully. Dad, Mum, I'm ready for school. I looked at Belle, my heart breaking for the innocent boy upstairs who had no idea his world was about to shatter. I couldn't look at Oliver during breakfast. Every time he smiled at me with those bright eyes, asking about his upcoming baseball game, I felt like I was drowning. How do you sit across from a child who calls you Dad, knowing everything you believed was built on lies? Dad, are you okay? Oliver asked his spoon halfway to his mouth. You look funny. I'm fine. Buddy, I managed, though my voice sounded hollow even to me. Belle kept shooting me desperate glances, silently pleading with me not to destroy her son's world right there at the breakfast table, but the way to the truth was crushing me. After I dropped Oliver at school, probably the last time I do that as his father, I drove straight to the bank. I needed to think, needed to figure out what this meant for everything we built together, our joint accounts, the college fund, the house we bought with both our names on the mortgage. My assistant, Janet, took one look at me and asked if I was feeling all right. Cancel my meetings, I told her. I need to make some calls. First, I called my lawyer, Mike Brennan. We'd gone to high school together, and he'd handled our house purchase and wills. Mike, I need to know about my legal rights regarding my son, I said without preamble. What's going on? Neil? Just found out he's not biologically mine. His mother had an affair. Where are my options? The silence on the other end stretched uncomfortably. Jesus, Neil. I'm sorry. How long have you been raising him? 9 years since birth. In this state, if you're listed on the birth certificate and have been acting as the father, you have parental rights. But if the biological father wants to contest, he might, I interrupted. What about financially? The house, college funds, everything's been set up. Assuming Oliver was mine, that's more complicated. We need to meet. Can you come in today? After hanging up, I sat in my office staring at the family photo on my desk. Oliver's gap-toed grin stared back at me, and I felt my chest tighten. This kid had done nothing wrong. He was innocent in all of this, but the betrayal burned like acid in my veins. 15 years of marriage, and Belle had let me live a lie. Every Father's Day card, every "I love you, Daddy," every proud moment at his games, all of it tainted now. My phone buzzed, a text from Belle. "Please come home. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. There's nothing left to talk about, but there was Oliver to think about whatever happened between Belle and me. That boy deserved better than being caught in the middle of this mess. I just didn't know how to protect him from the truth that was about to destroy everything he knew. That evening, I sat in my home office surrounded by financial documents, trying to untangle 15 years of shared assets, the joint checking account, the savings, Oliver's college fund. Everything was interconnected like a spider web, and I was about to tear it all apart. Belle knocked softly on the door. "Neil Oliver's asking why you missed dinner." I didn't look up from the papers. "Tell him I'm working. We can't keep avoiding this conversation." I finally raised my head. "What conversation? Belle? The one where you explain how you've been lying to me for nearly a decade? Or the one where you tell me how sorry you are for letting me believe Oliver was mine?" She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "I am sorry. You have to believe that. Sorry doesn't fix this." I gestured to the document spread across my desk. "Do you have any idea what this means financially? The house, the insurance policies, the trust fund. It's all assuming Oliver is my biological son. Money isn't what matters here, isn't it?" I stood up, my patience finally snapping. I've been planning for his future for 9 years. Belle, college tuition, wedding fund, everything a father saves for his son. Now I find out he's not even mine. He is yours in every way that... Stop saying that. I slam my hand on the desk. Biology matters. Legal paternity matters. And you've taken both away from me. Her face crumpled. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I can't do this anymore. I can't sit at that dinner table pretending everything's normal. I can't read him bedtime stories knowing his real father is out there somewhere, probably not even caring that he exists." "So what? You're just going to abandon him?" The accusation hit like a slap. "I'm not abandoning anyone. But I need time to figure out what this means, what my legal rights are, what kind of future we're all looking at. And in the meantime, what do I tell Oliver?" I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd loved and trusted for 15 years. Tell him the truth. Tell him his father needs some time to think. That night, after Oliver had gone to bed, asking why Daddy seemed sad, I packed a bag. I couldn't stay in that house, sleeping next to the woman who betrayed me, listening to the boy who wasn't mine, breathing softly in the next room. I checked into a hotel downtown, paying cash so there'd be no paper trail. For the first time in years, I was completely alone with my thoughts. In the silence of that sterile hotel room, I realized something that terrified me. I had vanished after finding out my wife's baby wasn't mine, just disappeared from the life I thought I knew, and I had no idea how to find my way back. I've been staying at the Marriott downtown for 3 days when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my mother-in-law's name, Patricia Sinclair. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Neil, we need to talk," Patricia said without preamble. Her voice carried a weight I'd never heard before. "If Belle sent you to convince me to come home..." "Belle doesn't know I'm calling. Meet me at Riverside Diner in an hour." Against my better judgment, I went. Patricia was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup. At 68, she was still an elegant woman, but today, she looked every one of her years. "You look terrible," she said as I slid into the seat across from her. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Patricia studied me for a long moment. How much did Belle tell you about the affair? Enough. Milton Roar, her old firm 9 years ago during our rough patch. I signaled the waitress for coffee. Why? Because there's more you need to know. My stomach dropped. What kind of more? Patricia took a shaky breath. I knew about the affair when it happened. Belle came to me crying, scared she was pregnant, but didn't know who the father was. The coffee cup stopped halfway to my lips. You knew this whole time. You knew Oliver might not be mine. I told her, tell you the truth. I beg her to be honest before you got too attached to the baby. But she didn't listen. She was terrified you'd leave her. And when Oliver was born, Patricia's voice broke. He looked so much like Milton. I knew. We both knew. I set the cup down hard, coffee sloshing onto the table. You've watched me be a father to that boy for 9 years, knowing he wasn't mine. You've sat at Christmas dinners, birthday parties, family gatherings, watching me love a child that isn't mine. You are that child's father. Neil, biology doesn't... Don't give me that line, I snapped, causing other diners to look our way. Everyone keeps saying biology doesn't matter, but it's the only thing that does matter. It's what determines legal rights, inheritance, medical history, everything. Patricia reached across the table, but I pull my hands away. There's something else. Milton has been asking about Oliver. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean, asking? He's been calling Belle. He knows about the paternity test results. He wants to meet his son. The diner suddenly felt too hot, too crowded. How does he know about the test? Belle? She thought if he knew. You might want to be involved, help with support. She's been talking to him behind my back. I felt like I was drowning, while I've been building a college fund, planning for Oliver's future. She's been in contact with his real father. Neil, you have to understand. I don't have to understand anything. I stood up abruptly. Your daughter has been lying to me for 9 years, and now you're telling me she's been setting up meetings with Oliver's biological father. What's next? Are they planning to play house together? Patricia's face crumpled. I'm sorry. Neil, I should have made her tell you years ago. Yes, you should have. But you chose to protect your daughter instead of doing what was right. I threw 20 on the table and headed for the door. But Patricia's voice stopped me. Milton wants joint custody. Neil Belle's scared he'll take her court. I turned back slowly. Then maybe she should have thought about that before she started this mess, back in my hotel room. I paced like a caged animal. The walls felt like they were closing in, and I needed to do something, anything, to regain control of my life. That's when I remembered something from my banking days. Milton Roar's company had been shopping for commercial loans. I made some calls, pulled some strings, and within hours, I had the inside scoop on Roar and Associates' financial situation. They were leveraged to the hilt, behind on several major accounts, and desperately needed a bridge loan to keep their doors open. By Thursday afternoon, I was sitting across from Milton in his glass office, watching him squirm as I laid out the terms of his company's loan application. Mr. Maddox, Milton said, clearly recognizing my name, but trying to maintain professionalism. I appreciate you taking this meeting personally. It's my pleasure, I replied, enjoying the irony. I always like to handle sensitive accounts myself. Milton was exactly what I'd expected. Slick hair, expensive suit, the kind of guy who thought charm could get him out of any situation. He had no idea he was about to get a lesson in consequences. So I said, reviewing his file with deliberate slowness, You're requesting a $2 million bridge loan to cover operational shortfalls and outstanding vendor payments. That's correct. We're confident we can turn things around with the right financial backing. I lean back in my chair, studying him. Tell me, Milton, how do you handle personal responsibility when you make mistakes? Do you own up to them, or do you let other people deal with the consequences? His smile faltered slightly. I'm sorry. I don't understand the relevance. Oh, it's very relevant. See, we've had some bad experiences with borrowers who lack integrity in their personal lives. Tends to carry over into business dealings. Milton shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Mattix, if there's something specific you'd like to know about our business practices. Actually, there is. I closed the file and looked him straight in the eye. I'd like to know why you think you deserve a loan from the bank where I work, when you've been screwing my wife and fathering children you don't support. The color drained from Milton's face. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Belle Maddox. Oliver Maddox. Ring any bells? Milton's hands started shaking. Look, I didn't know she was still married. When you what? When you had an affair with a married woman, when you got her pregnant, when you disappeared for 9 years while I raised your son. I didn't know about the boy until recently, but now you do. And now you want to be daddy all of a sudden. I stood up, straightening my tie. Here's what's going to happen. Milton, your loan application is denied. Your company is going to fold within 6 months. And if you come anywhere near my family, I'll make sure every bank in this city knows exactly what kind of man you are. Milton jumped his feet. You can't do this. This is personal vendetta. You're damn right it's personal. You destroyed my family. Now I'm returning the favor. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Milton, stay away from Oliver. He already has a father. The look of panic in Milton's eyes as I left his office was worth every sleepless night I'd endured since finding that DNA test. Some battles are fought in courtrooms, others are fought in boardrooms, and sometimes the best revenge is simply being better at the game than your opponent. 6 months after I destroyed Milton's loan application, he made good on his threat. The custody papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a process server who seemed almost apologetic about disrupting my breakfast to the hotel restaurant. Petition for establishment of paternity in joint physical custody. I read aloud to my lawyer Mike Brennan later that morning in his office. He's got grounds, Mike said grimly. Reviewing the documents, DNA evidence, biological paternity, and a decent argument that he's been financially supporting the child, supporting him. How? He's been broke for months. Apparently, not anymore. Look at Exhibit C. I scanned the financial documents Milton had submitted. Bank statements showing regular deposits, a new job at a larger firm, evidence of child support payments to a separate account Belle had opened. Son of A has been planning this, I muttered. It gets worse. He's claiming you've been deliberately interfering with his attempts to establish a relationship with Oliver. Damn right I have. Mike looked at me seriously. Neil, I need you to understand something. In the eyes of the law, Milton Raw is Oliver's father. You've been acting as the father, which gives you some rights, but his biological claim is stronger. So, what are you saying? I'm saying we need to be strategic. This isn't about winning or losing anymore. It's about what's best for Oliver. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following month. In the meantime, I had to watch Milton exercise his court order visitation rights, picking up Oliver every other weekend, like he had some natural right to the boy I'd raised. The first time I saw them together, I was sitting in my car outside Oliver's school. Milton pulled up in a new BMW. Apparently, his finances had improved dramatically, and Oliver ran to him with genuine excitement. "Mr. Milton?" Oliver called out using the formal address Belle had obviously coached him to use. Watching them drive away together felt like having my heart ripped out with rusty pliers. This stranger was bonding with my son, creating new memories while I sat on the sidelines. That evening, when Belle brought Oliver home, I was waiting in the living room. "How was your day with Mr. Milton?" I asked Oliver, trying to keep my voice neutral. "It was awesome. Dad, he took me to the aquarium and we saw sharks, and he knows everything about marine biology. And he said, maybe next time we can go to the science museum." Each word was like a knife twist. "That sound great, buddy. He's really smart. Dad, almost as smart as you, almost as smart as me." The comparison hurt more than I wanted to admit. After Oliver went to bed, I confronted Belle in the kitchen. "You're coaching him to like Milton. I'm helping him adjust to having another important adult in his life," she said defensively. Important adult. 3 months ago, Oliver didn't even know Milton existed. "And whose fault is that?" Belle snapped. "Maybe if you hadn't spent the last 6 months trying to destroy Milton's life, they could have had a normal introduction." "Normal. There's nothing normal about this situation. Belle, nothing normal about a 9-year-old boy suddenly having 2 fathers because his mother had an affair." The slap came so fast, I didn't see it coming. My cheeks stung, but not as much as the truth of what I'd said. "Don't you ever speak to me like that again," Belle hissed. "I made a mistake. Neil, one mistake, and I've been paying for it every day for 9 years. So have I. The difference is, I didn't know I was paying for it. The custody hearing was a nightmare. Milton's lawyer painted me as a vindictive ex-husband who was using Oliver as a pawn in my war against his biological father. My lawyer tried to argue that I was the only father Oliver had ever known, but the judge seemed more interested in biological rights than emotional bonds. "Mr. Maddox," Judge Harrison said during my testimony, "while I appreciate the role you've played in Oliver's life, the court must consider the biological father's constitutional rights to his child." "Your Honor," I replied, trying to control my anger. "Oliver doesn't know Milton is his biological father. He thinks of him as a family friend. Suddenly forcing them into a father-son relationship could be psychologically damaging." "That's exactly why we're here," Milton's lawyer interjected. "My client has the right to establish a meaningful relationship with his son, and Mr. Maddox has been actively preventing that." The judge awarded Milton supervised visitation every other weekend, with the possibility of overnight visits after 6 months if the relationship progressed well. I was granted continued custody as the psychological father, but the writing was on the wall. That night, I did something I'd never done in my adult life. I got drunk. Seriously, blackout drunk. I started at Murphy's pub downtown and worked my way through half the bars in the city, telling anyone who'd listen about the injustice of the family court system. I woke up the next morning in a jail cell with a pounding headache and no memory of how I'd gotten there, public intoxication and disturbing the peace. The desk sergeant told me when I was released, "You're lucky nobody pressed charges for the other stuff." "What other stuff?" "You tried to fight 3 different guys last night. Kept saying something about them stealing your son." The humiliation was complete. I'd gone from respected bank manager to drunk, making scenes in public. But somehow, hitting rock bottom felt like a relief. At least now I knew exactly where I stood. When I got back to my hotel room, there was a message from Mike Brennan. "Neil, we need to talk. Milton's lawyer called. They're filing for increased custody. Call me." I stared at the phone for a long time before dialing. "How much increased?" I asked when Mike answered. "Joint physical custody, 50/50th split over my dead body." "Neil, listen to me. You need to get your act together. If the judge hears about last night's incident, it's going to hurt your case. You need to show that you're the stable parent here." "Stable? My wife cheated on me, lied to me for 9 years, and now another man is trying to take my son. How exactly am I supposed to be stable? By being the man Oliver needs you to be, by fighting for him instead of fighting against Milton. What's the difference? The difference is strategy. You can't win a war against Milton's biology, but you can win the war for Oliver's heart." Mike was right, but it didn't make the reality any easier to swallow. Milton wasn't going away. If anything, he was getting stronger, more confident, more involved in Oliver's life. I had to find a way to fight this battle without losing myself in the process. 5 years. 5 years since I'd walked away from Maple Grove, from the house with the white picket fence, from the life I thought was mine. 5 years of living in different cities, different jobs, different identities. I become a ghost in my own life. I was managing a small credit union in Portland, Oregon, when she found me, living under my middle name, Neil Joseph instead of Neil Maddox. I thought I'd cover my tracks well enough. I was wrong. The knock came on a Tuesday evening while I was grading loan applications in my studio apartment, through the peephole. I saw a woman I barely recognized. Belle stood there, older, grayer, wearing the kind of tire expression that comes from years of carrying guilt. "Hello?" "Neil," she said when I opened the door. "How did you find me?" "It took 3 years and 2 private investigators. But I found you." I didn't invite her in. We stood in my doorway like strangers, which I suppose we were now. "Why?" I asked. "Because Oliver deserves to know where his real father went." "His real father?" I thought that was Milton. Belle's face crumpled. Milton got his joint custody, then he got bored. Turns out playing weekend dad wasn't as fulfilling as he thought it'd be. He moved to Chicago 2 years ago, sends a birthday card twice a year if Oliver's lucky. The irony was bitter. I'd lost my son to a man who had ultimately abandoned him anyway. "Oliver asks about you," Belle continued. "Every birthday, every Father's Day, every time something good happens in his life. He wants to tell his dad about it. I'm not his dad anymore. The courts made that clear. The courts were wrong." She pulled out her phone, showing me a picture of a 14-year-old boy who looked exactly like I had at that age. "Look at him. Neil? Really? Look, really?" I stared at the photo. Oliver had grown tall, gangly, with my stubborn chin and my mother's eyes. He was wearing a Little League uniform, holding a trophy, grinning with gap-toed pride. He made varsity as a freshman, Belle said softly. "First freshman in school history. He wanted you to know." My chest he tightened. "Belle, why are you here? Really?" "Because I need to tell you something I should have told you years ago." She took a shaky breath. "I had another paternity test done last year, a legitimate one. Not the fake one Milton paid for." The world tilted. "What?" "Oliver is yours. Neil, he's always been yours." Milton bribed the lab technician to falsify the first results. He wanted me back, and he knew if you thought Oliver wasn't yours, I'd have no choice but to rely on him. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. "Are you telling me?" "I'm telling you that my biggest mistake wasn't the affair. It was believing Milton when he showed me those fake DNA results. It was letting you walk away thinking you weren't Oliver's father. The rage that flooded through me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. 5 years. 5 years of exile, of believing I'd raised another man's child, of watching from a distance as my son grew up without me. You destroyed my life over fake test results. Milton destroyed all our lives, but I let him, and I've spent every day since trying to find a way to make it right. The flight back to my hometown felt like traveling through time. Everything looked smaller than I remembered, but the house on Maple Grove still had its white picket fence, though the paint was chipping now. Oliver was waiting on the front porch when my taxi pulled up. 5 years had changed him from a boy into a young man, but when he saw me step out of that car, he was 9 years old again. "Dad," he called out, uncertainty in his voice. "Yeah, buddy, it's me." He ran to me then, this 14-year-old kid who should have been too cool for hugging his father, and wrapped his arms around me like he was afraid I'd disappear again. "I knew you'd come back," he whispered into my shoulder. "I always knew." That evening, the three of us sat in the living room that had once been our family sanctuary. Oliver curled up between Belle and me on the couch, like he used to when he was small. "What happens now?" Belle asked. I looked at my son, my real son, my biological son, the boy I should never have doubted was mine. Now we figure out how to be a family again. "All of us?" Oliver asked hopefully. I met Belle's eyes across our son's head. There was love there still, buried under years of pain and betrayal, but also something more important. Understanding. "I don't know if your mom and I can go back to being married." I told Oliver. "Honestly, too much has happened. Too much trust has been broken, but we'll always be your parents, both of us, together." Belle nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Together? What about Milton?" Oliver asked. "Milton's not part of this family," I said firmly. "He never was, and he never will be." 6 months later, I moved back to town and taken a position at my old bank. Belle and I were in counseling, taking things one day at a time. Some days were good, some were painful, but we were committed to rebuilding something honest. Oliver thrived with both his parents back in his life. His grades improved, his confidence soared, and he made varsity baseball as a sophomore. Another first in school history. The house with the white picket fence got a fresh coat of paint. The mortgage was back in my name only. And every evening when I came home from work, Oliver would run to greet me with that same gap-toed grin. Older now, but no less bright. We lost 5 years to Milton's lies, but we had the rest of our lives to make up for it. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't avoiding the battle. It's surviving it and finding your way home.